Alright, hello. This is going to be the last part for this Kirby's Dreamland 2 Let's Play that I'm doing. We're showing off the boss rush mode, the bonus stage rush mode, and the sound room, which is all the content you get for 100%ing the game. So that's cool. I like when games have stuff to encourage you to 100% it, and this is some good content, I would say, because boss rush modes are really fun. These early boss fights will be able to get through pretty quickly, which is good. But this fight here versus Neruf and Nelly, I actually kind of wish it went on a little bit longer because it's one of my favorite fights. But that's alright. With the boss rush mode, you can only use the inhale ability, which for the most part works well against bosses, but sometimes, you know, it means you have to wait for them to give you certain attacks. Here with the sweet stuff at fight, when we did in the playthrough, I had Kind the fish, which was nice because then I could inhale these squids that he sends at you. But when you're just using Kirby, you have to wait for him to use these stars, and then you can blow bubbles at them to push the stars back into sweet stuff to do damage, which is a little bit tougher. You know, it's funny, in the manual for this game, it calls this attack that Kirby does underwater, the water gun, I think, which, I mean, I don't know, it doesn't really look like a water gun to me, but... I also like, in the background, it kind of looks like blue rupees from The Legend of Zelda, just all, like, stacked together. I just want to collect them all, you know what I mean? Although rupees in Zelda games were never that important, I feel like, at least not in the first ones. There was like nothing to buy in those games. But that's okay. They were still fun. Something that I've found out about myself is, like, if I go back to play certain games I really enjoyed as a kid, I don't know, there's sort of no guarantee as to which games I'll actually still enjoy playing, and which games I'll kind of be like, you know, this game didn't age well, at least for me personally. 2D sort of games like these, I think, for the most part, if they're done successfully, you know, I think that they're still fun to come back to, like always, like this is a good time, but some early 3D games are actually kind of slower than I remembered as a kid, and honestly, yeah, like Ocarina of Time is a good example of, like, I think it's a great game, but you play, I don't know, playing through it again, I sort of, like, am a bit, surprised by sort of how, I guess, bare bones it is. But, I mean, it makes sense. It was one of the earlier 3D games to come out. So, I suppose that's fair. This Ice Dragon fight takes a bit of time. Again, as I mentioned, we have to wait for these spike attacks to actually do damage to him, and he has all these other attacks that he'll choose to do, and they take a long time, and there's really no guarantee that he'll do the spike attack like every, you know, 2 or 3 times. He can do a bunch of other stuff, and he does usually eventually do it, but yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be cool if they could, like, program an AI to, like, sort of say, like, do random attacks, and if in those random attacks you haven't done spike attack after 3 tries, do spike attack immediately, you know? But I don't know, maybe that would get too predictable. Hard to say, hard to say. Enemy AI is a very interesting, you know, thing to program, and with bosses, I don't know, I guess, part of me doesn't really see it as, like, AI. It's more just, like, move patterns and kind of random chances of doing moves. And then probably some sort of, like, maybe some sort of other thing that would dictate sort of just their general movement. Some other, line of programming. But, AI, I think, actually is a term that kind of gets misused a bit, because, I guess it depends on what you mean by it. It's not like it's an intelligence, like an artificial intelligence that's, like, learning as against your player moves. It's probably just, like, a boss that just has sort of, yeah, certain simple algorithms that it follows, and maybe it's just randomness that chooses between which pattern you get. But yeah, we just defeated the Sun and the Moon. We're looking pretty good with our health here. That's another thing that's fun about the boss fights, is that your health carries over in between each fight, so you know, you gotta become pretty proficient at taking down these bosses, which makes it more challenging, but more fun. I'm still pretty bad at this boss fight, actually. Krako, or Krakos. I can never actually remember what exactly his name is, but I don't know, I just always goof up on this fight, even though when I look back at it, it doesn't look too hard to me, which, you know, difficulty is relative, I guess. But yeah, that's all good stuff. You know what's difficult for me is, actually coming up with good topics to talk about, which, you know, I don't think that should come as a surprise. But yeah, now we're doing the second part of the fight. One thing is, like, I feel like I can get too kind of fixated on just the things happening in the game, and when you do that, you sort of trade off, I don't know, the human qualities that a commentator can bring to a sort of a let's play, I suppose, where you're just focusing on gameplay mechanics, as interesting as those might be. But, you know, part of me wants to sort of break through that and come to talking about things beyond that, and I feel like I am capable of that, but you know, you sort of need something to get you going, and then once you get going, then you're in the clear, because you can just sort of, one idea sort of leads to the next, and hopefully it all ends up sounding good and proper, but sometimes, I'll go back and listen to something I thought was a really good take, and then I listen to it and I'm like, oh, I'm a jumbled mess. I'm not actually finishing any of my thoughts, I'm just sort of half thinking them and half saying them, and then just jumping in between thoughts that come up in my head, and it's totally erratic and all that, but that's okay. That's okay. We're just about done here. We took quite a few hits, but you know, I think we can take down that penguin, no problemo. One thing that's actually kind of interesting about the King Dedede boss fight is, for one thing, it starts you off here instead of just in the fight. And another thing is that when you beat this boss fight, we'll actually get a health refill, which kind of cheats the way they set up this boss fight, I think, a little bit. It's a bit of a cop-out to sort of give you all your health after this fight, but I think it's like that because they probably couldn't separate this sequence, the King Dedede fight going straight into the Dark Matter fight. And I don't know why exactly, but I guess just when they programmed it, they didn't think ahead like that. And this is all just speculation, because maybe they did want to actually do it like this for some reason, but I guess in my imagination, if I were to like sort of decide how to do like a boss rush mode, I'd probably just you know, queue up the King Dedede fight, and then with whatever health you end up with, just queue up the start of the Dark Matter fight, and not necessarily give you full health, but maybe like you're just forced to have full health when you go to that part. So yeah, what can you do, I guess? That's alright though. One thing is, I assume they probably did this, you know, basically at the end of their development cycle, and making changes to things you've already done, especially when they already work, like, for all intents and purposes. It's like, don't fix what isn't broke, you know? So, they probably just kind of called it, and didn't really want to ruin a whole bunch of stuff, and then have to go back and fix it all, so yeah, I don't know. Game development is probably a pretty darn complex thing. One thing is, it's also very unique to the programmers that were, I guess, approaching it, because certain games, you know, have certain exploits. Especially if you follow speedrunning communities, you'll kind of notice what certain speedruns, the glitches they sort of use to optimize their strategies, and some of them are actually kind of similar to others, like, you know, clipping out of bounds and stuff like that. Even though they're like from different games, I find that interesting. I guess there's like something universal about programming for a game, but no one game has usually the exact same glitches as another game. So it's sort of like similar but different, and that's cool, I guess. Maybe you can look at that information and parse a little bit of what it means to program video games, but I don't want to get ahead of myself thinking I'm Mr. Programmer over here. I actually tried to be a programmer. That was like my idea coming out of high school, was to do computer programming, but then I realized just how competitive that field is, and also how I didn't really want to spend like my work day in front of a computer screen, because I like playing video games in my free time, and that'd just be too much screen time, you know. I already get too much screen time, but I guess we all do. Anyway, we're finishing up this fight. We're getting the rainbow drops again. It's a beautiful cutscene. The way the rainbow drops actually approach Kirby is relative to where Kirby's standing at the end of the fight. So certain ones come faster if they're on the far side of the screen, and other ones come slower. Which I think is smart, because it kind of gives each rainbow drop a sort of an equal weight to it, because each one took relatively about the same amount of time to get to Kirby. So that was a cool little thing that they added. And yeah, it's back to flying around with Dark Matter in his Swordsmaster form. I was kind of harsh on this fight, actually, if I remember correctly, in my first video. Not really harsh, but I didn't have... I think I had more negative things to say, but part of what I choose to say isn't because it's like what I feel... Sorry, this might be a confusing idea. Part of what I choose to say in a video, it's not like that's what I feel the most, it's just usually what I feel like might be the most interesting to hear about. So like, what I would actually probably should have said was just like how cool this is, yeah, as an idea, which I did kind of say, but I was more focusing on the point that like doing the gameplay of this is kind of boring. But what's funny is like I think in saying that I kind of forgot that you know, it's more important actually to probably say the first impression you had rather than like your current impression, because my current impression at that point was coming from a point of view of like having fought this guy a whole bunch of times. But I think there's no one proper way to do a Let's Play, but when you're coming up to a boss for the first time in a Let's Play, you know, I think it's good to sort of keep that first impression in mind, even though for me that was sort of archived and I had to, I had to call back to it and sort of remember what it was like, and that was a bit unnatural. And my natural impression was to just sort of talk about it from the point of view of playing it a few times and realizing it's a lot of waiting, and you just sort of simply like, he doesn't have that much attack, so you just kind of just do whatever he's doing in relation to his attacks, and for the most part, if you just stay on the bottom of the screen, like there's not much to it. Yeah, I still get hit, which is just shows how mindless I am. Although there is something to be said about a fight in a game that you perceive as easy, and then you sort of don't take it as seriously, and then that's what leads you to get hit, is because you're kind of blind to it, because you're not paying attention. Whereas if it's like a hard fight, you know, you're really engaged, and that means you actually perform better sometimes. But that's because the challenge of it, you know. People say you know a lot when they are, I think, speaking publicly and trying to communicate ideas, and I think that's a funny word to oversay when you're speaking and you don't know what to say, because people also say and like a lot, but you know is funny because it's sort of, in saying that, you're trying to, I guess, reassure the listener that like that they in fact know what you're talking about, when you're still developing the ideas of what you're talking about in your head, and you don't really necessarily know what you're saying. I don't even know what I'm saying. My idea got too confused. But I just think "you know" is a funny one of those words like or to sort of spam in your speech when you're unsure of the ideas you're saying. And I say "you know" a lot. But yeah. I'm sure I say a lot of things too much, but I should probably stop being so, I don't know, meta about it all. Because we just beat the fight, and yeah, we just beat that guy. We're actually speeding up this last cutscene that plays here, because we already saw it, and it's cool, but I kind of want to make this video a little bit slower, or sorry, a little bit faster. And I think the cutscene actually looks good fast, you know. I don't like it when credits like flash all the names like so fast that you can't even read them all. And I guess at this speed it kind of does it does sort of err on that side, but I think the animation plays really well. And we are excellent! Yay! And Rick's giving us a nice smile, the kind of smile that makes me so happy. Gooey there kind of looks like he's trying to get away from his girlfriend, which is sort of funny. Maybe that's just me reading into it. Anyway, the bonus stages. Here we go. I really love the bonus stages in this game. I actually think they're actually as fun as the boss fights, if not even maybe more so fun. This one is probably more fun than just the Wispy Woods boss fight because it's a bit more of a challenge. Although it does take kind of a longer amount of time. But that's okay. It's actually probably the longest boss rush mode. Or sorry, bonus stage. Bonus chance of them all, but it's still pretty fun. I like how Wispy Woods is an apple tree. Yep. That's the point that my commentary's gotten to, folks. It's all downhill from here. What's kind of cool is you actually get to see how many one-ups you get from just doing all the bonus chances in a row, because we start off with 0 there, so we'll get to see how high it goes. This one is such a fun one too. I like it. I just like this room a lot. The 3 different levels of platforms there to sort of weave Kirby in between is it's good platforming. Kirby just controls so well, and that's a good example of why this game is so fun, and it's because Kirby controls so well. I think that's actually a huge part of what makes games fun, especially the kind of games where it's sort of like an action-type game of some sort, and you control one character, and you move them around like a little simulated world, like, because all you're doing is controlling the character, so it gosh darn better well feel good to do that. And thankfully Kirby does control well. He even controls well in the water. Like that one with the Gordos, which I also wanted to say at some point in this Let's Play, that Gordo is probably my favorite Kirby enemy in the whole entire game. But, yeah, that Gordo one's fun too, but I was talking about something else and we went through it, so oh dear. That's another problem with talking, is sometimes I'll actually have something to say, and I'm like, oh good, I have something to say. But then in my rambling about it, I talk over, you know, into the next thing, and then I found out that I had something to say about the next thing, and then it's all, you know, it's like sometimes there's a rarity and a disparity in the world of potential things to talk about that my mind can reach, and then other times there's a surplus and there's too much, and then both are bad. Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on who you ask. I could probably even talk less for these gosh darn things, and it'd probably make for a better, well, better is relative, but it would make for a different and equally good, you know, it'd have potential to be equally good. Shucks. Sorry, I'm struggling at talking about what I'm saying. My point is, actually, if I were to do another sort of series, which if I did, I kind of want to take a break and not do it just immediately, because this one's actually kind of taking it out of me a bit, but if I were to do another Let's Play, I think I would try to approach it differently, because this one I sort of, in my approach, just ended up like, I want to talk over the game in like one go, which I think that has advantages and disadvantages. There's sort of a unpredictable element that's fun to it, but at the same time I think it's led to some I don't know. It could have been like more tightly managed, and that's kind of, I guess, what I would want to do if I did another thing would be to like perhaps even get to the point where I'm like writing out a script for it and then, you know, reading it, but that's hard for different reasons too. And sweet, we get 18 lives for doing all the bonus stages, and then we get this cool results screen, which makes me happy. Who doesn't like seeing stars get filled in? And then, yay, it's all the characters in a cute little excellent stamp or something. That is adorable. And that's everything except for the sound room, which is right here. And it's a cool looking sound room. I would love to hang out in here with Kine and all those guys and just chill and drink some tea or whatever. But thank you for watching. Thank you. Thank you.